Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Zdenek's English podcast. Here is another episode for you. And if you are watching this on my YouTube channel, then you will see that I'm not alone. I have a lovely guest who is none other than Claire. Welcome back, Claire, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you on my birthday. It's kind of like a special treat or a bonus. And I think, is this our third podcast interview together? Or I think it might be the third or even the fourth. Anyway, so it's very good to be back, and I'm happy to see you again.
Yeah, I always like to talk to you on the podcast because you have so many things to say, and it's just lovely to pick your brain on various topics. So that's exactly what the plan is here today. Also, we should say that we have done. You mentioned 3 podcasts, but the thing is, we have also done Czech podcasts because I have.
Of course, yes.
2 different podcasts. One is called Zdenek's English podcast. That's the one you're listening to right now. But then there is also Zdenkův Český podcast, which is my Czech podcast, and you've been on that one too. Because just to remind to our listeners, you are an immigrant in the Czech Republic, aren't you?
I am, yes. Yes, I'm definitely an immigrant, and I'm quite a historic immigrant, really, because I've been here on and off since 1984.
Which pretty much makes you a native speaker, almost native speaker, because I've heard your Czech, of course, on my podcast, and you sound like some like many Czech people should be jealous of your Czech. Let me put it that way.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment from a language.
No, it's true. It's true. Like, you have really mastered the language. So how you celebrating your birthday then? By doing the podcast, but the day has just started. It's morning in the Czech Republic, isn't it?
It is. It's just 9:20. Yes. So I started by taking my dog for a walk, which is a good start. And I'm having a sort of slightly working day, but not too much. But I think my birthday celebration is at the weekend because I'm going to the White Carpathians in Slovakia to a place called Vršatec, which is, I think, the nearest town is Trenčín. So it's not far from here, but up in the mountains. I think it's going to be a bit chilly, but I'm looking forward to a couple of days in the fresh air in the mountains.
That's lovely. I actually went to Trenčín myself in summer to visit my student Laco. He lives in Trenčín, so that's a lovely little town. I really highly recommend visiting it if you can. Very nice.
Good to know.
Nice, yeah.
Good to know. Yeah. So things are fine. So I'm having a deferred birthday at the weekend coming up.
Deferred birthday, yeah. Meaning you are pushing it. Not pushing it. You are postponing it, basically.
Postponing it a little bit, yes, or extending it, we could say as well.
Putting it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of birthdays because basically it's only a reminder that I am 1 year older. I don't like that at all.
No. Well, wait till you get to my age. So it's definitely I'm in what the category that teenagers call crone.
Oh, what's that? Crone.
Crone is a sort of like an aged woman. Yeah. So if you're in your 50s, you're in pre-crone. And once you get past 60s, you're in the crone. In the crone phase.
Is it spelled as CRONE or?
It is, yes. A crone. Okay. It's something like looking like an old witch,
I see. Wow. Okay, so there's an alternative for the word boomer, basically, right?
Yeah. I suppose so. Yes, an aged boomer. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Because it must come from Latin because you have the word chronology, right? And all that.
Yes, to do with time. Yes, I suppose.
It's something to do with time, right? Yeah. Okay, lovely. So, Claire, kind of two topics I would like to address, or I would like to explore on this podcast with you today. One is, of course, we can talk more about you, your activities, because I know you are a very, very sort of busy person with a lot of different ideas and activities involved. You're involved in plenty of things. And secondly, I always like to talk to you about sort of what's happening in the world, which could be rather depressing at the moment, but I'm still willing to take that risk.
We can give it a shot.
I know it's not your fault, that's for sure. It's
no.
Just maybe it might help me and even the listeners make some sense out of it, but obviously it's just our opinion. But yeah. All right.
Yes, I mean, yes, sure. Yes, shoot away. What would you like to talk about first?
Okay. Let's talk about you. So we have sort of told everyone that who you are. I think they must remember you from the previous podcast. But basically, you're living in the Czech Republic, somewhere near Brno or somewhere in South Moravia, right?
Yeah. So I live in Kyjov, which is a wine-producing market town. About 60 kilometers south of Brno. So we're not actually far from the Austrian border and the Slovak border. It's very fertile, very rich soil, a very pleasant place to live. It's very handy to get about. I love the place. And it's very nice in spring, of course. All the magnolias are out and the tulips and the daffodils. It's very beautiful here.
You're a fan.
And so I'm quite a sort of adopted Moravian patriot. I like it here. I love going into Brno. There's a very rich cultural life here, so I love going to the theatre, opera, ballet. Anything that's going really.
Culture vulture.
Definitely a culture vulture. Yes. Yeah. And but people who've seen me on the show before will know that I'm a writer. I've written a couple of novels. Well, I've published a couple and I've written some more. And I'm publishing them myself. And
what is it called? Tainted?
The Tainted Vintage was the one.
The Tainted Vintage, right.
The Tainted Vintage, which is crime detective murder mystery set in this region in a fictitious town.
Plenty of sort of references to this Moravian culture. Moravia, ladies and gentlemen, is the sort of eastern part of the Czech Republic. We could say.
Yeah. So it's it borders on Lower Austria, which I think a lot of listeners will remember is also a wine producing area called the Weinviertel. It's one of the
Austria, not Australia, which is
Austria.
Sometimes I see these Instagram reels or short videos of some people asking these sort of quiz questions, and they mess up these two countries, Austria and Australia. And then it becomes a viral video. So we're talking about Austria, the European country.
Yeah. Apparently at Vienna airport, they have a special desk for people who've flown in thinking they're coming to Australia.
Oh, you're joking.
No, apparently it's a thing. Apparently it's a thing.
Can you imagine flying to? They're like, whoa, what a cheap ticket have I? Wow, amazing! Like some Europeans trying to fly to Australia. They're like, wonderful. It has always been my dream to go to Australia. How come the tickets are so cheap? Wonderful. And then you end up in Austria. Yeah. And it's like, why is the flight been so short?
Yes.
How
and why are they speaking German here?
Sorry?
And why are they speaking German in Australia?
Right.
Yes.
Now you have to be really dumb or, I don't know, drunk or something like that.
Maybe, right? Yes. Yeah, so in addition to the writing, which I haven't done much of lately, I must admit, I have a tutoring business, and most of my students are ethnic Chinese, so they're either at school in the UK preparing for exams, or they are in China, or they're in most recently the Emirates. There are quite a lot. Apparently, there's quite a big Chinese population in the Emirates right now, and and with all the troubles going on in Iran, quite a lot of them have flown back to China, and they're just starting to come back to Dubai or wherever it is they live now.
I see. Well, you're not the first teacher I came across that sort of specializes in teaching the Chinese. I think it must be a huge market there, right?
It is. It is a huge market, and it found me. I didn't find it. It found me. So when I first started advertising in, well, it would be sort of around the pandemic time, so 2020, I advertised on a tutoring website, and all the people who contacted me at the beginning were people running agencies for Chinese students. So that's really the core of my work. And I do like teaching them because they're mostly quite motivated, disciplined, not always, but generally speaking, they're pretty keen, so they're a pleasure to teach because they want to learn, which helps.
Yeah, no, I have taught some Chinese students before, so I remember. What would you say are the specifics of teaching the Chinese, or maybe you could talk about some strengths, weaknesses? I can imagine what it could be, but I want to hear it from you firsthand.
So I think the first thing is the helicopter parents.
Helicopter parents. So okay, so they are always checking on their kids.
Well, you quite often find by European standards or American standards, the parents are often sitting in on the lesson, not always visibly, but they're around, and they
not so blurred background.
No, but it can be quite distracting for the kid. I think the kid sometimes finds it quite nerve-wracking. And one of my agents has two children whom I have taught both of them, and they just kick mum out. They say, "You're not sitting in on my lesson. You can just go away." And she listens because I think it's a multi-ethnic family. I think she's Chinese and he's British or something. But anyway,
how do you find it? How do you personally find it as a teacher?
I feel that it's not good for the kid, because what you need to do with children is to create an atmosphere where you can challenge them, but where they feel safe and free to make mistakes. So they can't do that if they're constantly being prodded and prompted, very often by parents who don't actually understand what you're doing. So that can be a bit awkward.
Isn't I don't want to put my foot in it, but isn't this little bit a feature of the Chinese culture, like this sort of big brother is watching you sort of? That's at least what we think in the West, isn't it? Like we think that
it can come over a bit that way, and I think that's just the way they think that they're taking care of the children. I don't think they see it.
They don't mean it in a bad way. They just think
that
this can
I don't think they would see it as surveillance. I mean, to us, it has that kind of, as you say, that big brother feeling.
Because we prefer developing the freedom, sort of the independence and all that, right? But
it can also, that kind of having the parents around or the family around can spill over into. I've actually taught lessons with a kid sitting at the dinner table with plates clattering and noodles being passed in front of them.
Chinese noodles, I assume they were.
Chinese noodles. And you sort of think, well, how can this poor kid possibly concentrate? So there, but then the other side of it, in terms of language, this isn't just Chinese people, this is people in general, because people don't read as much, the vocabulary is shrinking. So if I'm doing exam books, for example, it doesn't have to be Shakespeare. It could just be something from 50 years ago or 100 years ago. So they don't have the emotional vocabulary. They can't describe nuance of feeling. And they read words, but they don't read meaning. And there is a definite tendency. I think the Chinese education system is very much based on a lot of rote learning and learning massive amounts of material.
Yeah,
and
so memorizations basically, and all.
Yeah, and not
like drilling.
Whereas for good or ill, the British education system is skills based. So, for example, if you do history in the UK, it's about, how do I evaluate this source? Is it reliable? Is it biased? What is it telling me? What's it not telling me, deliberately or accidentally? So it's more to do with higher order thinking skills. And you're doing that through English, basically, so that they can do it in other subjects. So there is that. And
so basically, it's like lack of critical thinking and sort of the ability to be creative, and so you have to deal with that too. And so, is this something you're also consciously trying to work on when you?
Yes, I have to. I have to, because, and I think it's something that the Western education ministries and things are actually coming to realize that, sort of maybe 40, 50 years ago, it was decided we've all got to be technical and scientific, and it's a complete waste of time reading Dickens or Austen or Graham Greene or whatever. And now they've discovered that when you read literature, you're actually learning not only language, but empathy. You're learning how to look at the world through somebody else's viewpoint, how to negotiate, how to express what you want.
It sounds like something we need, like the world leaders of today. I guess something they're lacking, right? So, I think there's probably something about it.
Yeah. So it's, I'm a real evangelist for fiction reading, because I think it really develops the mind very, very much. And I mean, obviously, you're not going to start a kid with a Jane Austen under your arm. You're going to start them with something that's much more accessible.
Harry Potter or Alice in Wonderland, or
something like that, or poetry, but modern poetry or something like that. But so I'm really, really, really keen on that. And I feel that apparently this is the first generation of young people who are actually cognitively inferior to their parents, and it's worldwide.
That doesn't surprise me, Claire.
Yeah, it's really quite a big problem. And have you heard of Jordan Peterson, who's the Canadian psychologist? Because he does a lot of. He's got a huge following on YouTube, but he said that statistically, the average IQ has been dropping by 7 points every 20 years since the 1970s or so.
This is some alarming news. I thought in this first part, Claire, it would be less depressing, but we can't help it, can we?
It all hangs together, Zdenek. You can't separate the one from the other.
To be fair, I can see it on my own sort of case. I'm also not reading as much as I used to. I'm not reading at all. I just listen. I listen to podcasts. I prefer it, and watch YouTube videos. At least I can still watch the long ones, right? I'm still not the youngest generation that they just need like 7-second videos and that's it. They don't have an attention span for something longer. But still, I can see that this sort of transition you've just described here. It's you're talking about myself too, and I used to read as well in university, and I read Shakespeare too and all that, but I just don't in the last decade.
Yeah.
I haven't been reading in the last decade, so it's a trend.
No, it is, but I think if you're watching podcasts or listening to podcasts in what's called the long form, then you're still not actually a complete basket case.
I'm not completely retarded yet. I'm happy to hear that, Claire.
Because it's the attention span is part of the ability to process information and to evaluate it. So it's not. It doesn't have to be through the written word. It can also.
I'm not completely hopeless yet.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, but I think I'm sort of this transition. I'm on the, I'm a good example of someone like of this time transitioning from, it's going from bad to worse, right? As you said, so lower IQ, lower attention span, like less knowledge of vocabulary, fewer words. They know fewer words, as you said, and all that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, apparently there was a professor of literature, English and American in the US, and he said it's a real problem because he now has undergraduates doing English literature as a major who can't read the first paragraph of a Dickens novel.
Oh my
They actually can't understand it.
They can't read it because they just fall asleep when they do it, or they can't understand
it. No, they can't understand the words. They can't actually understand the language. I think it was the book he mentioned was Bleak House, which is it's a book about a kind of long-standing legal wrangle, and it is a rather, even by Dickens standards, it's quite a complex, involved paragraph. But I was fairly stunned that somebody majoring in English literature, was not able to at least follow it.
Well, it's not always about knowing all the vocabulary. Sometimes it's just about the ability to sort of infer it from context, right? To be able to deduce the meaning from context as well. So that's a skill in itself. So that's something we teach as teachers. Sometimes you don't know the meaning of the word, but you can sort of guess, is this word relevant? Is it important? It's an adjective. So it's a descriptive word. Maybe it's not as important for me. Right? How about this one? Oh, it appears more times in this text. Maybe that's the one I need to look up, right? So then this is so easy these days. You can just ask AI or use an app. I know there now when you for example read using Amazon Kindle, right? These devices, you can just highlight the word that you don't know, and it will immediately give you the definition. So, I mean, there are ways to deal with this, but I guess your point is that the ability is getting worse. There's less ability, basically. It's not a very very nice prospect, Claire.
No, I mean, I think there is evidence that the pendulum is starting to swing back.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, one even just an example from Achievers Chamber. One of the people I was chatting to last weekend, he said his daughter, who's now 15, has realized that she's watching TikTok and very short videos all the time.
Yeah.
And she has actually made a conscious decision to stop doing that and start reading books again. So
great.
Which is great,
That's amazing.
Which is great. Or even if she went over to watching grown-up podcasts where they're actually two intelligent, knowledgeable human beings speaking, then that would be a plus, wouldn't it?
Let's hope more and more people do that. You mentioned Achievers Chamber, so we probably should just explain what that is. Basically, I've been advertising it here on Zdenek's English podcast for a long time. It's an English-speaking club, let's say, which we have on Discord, and you are a big personality there as well, Claire, because you do have, we call it events. These are like sessions. I don't want to call it lessons because these are more, let's say, lighthearted opportunities for you to practice English. So you can join, right?
Hi, I'm Lukas from Slovakia, and I like the Achievers Chamber because I have the opportunity to meet talkative people who are about the same level.
So you can join, right? That way you will have the opportunity to talk to Claire as well as myself regularly. So the link is in the description, and you can also go to my website, teacherzdenek.com.
I love doing Achievers Chat. It's been such an enriching experience for me, because you meet lots of different people from different walks of life all over the world, very different professions, very different life experience, and it's a lovely way to practice English, but with, as you say, there is some meat and bones to it. It's in a very interesting way that it's really
it's vegan friendly as well. If you are vegans, you can join too. I know Claire is saying there's bone to it and there's a lot of meat, but vegetable people, you're welcome to. But yes.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm glad to hear that, and I'm really super happy to have you on board. And yeah, it's also we should say it's not for everyone, because there's sort of requirement, at least like B2 level, upper intermediate level. It's for high level English learners. But if you guys think you would like to try, then go ahead and check it out on my website. There's more information about it there.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything out there quite like it, and I'm really happy that we somehow found each other. I can't even remember how we did. It might have been through somebody else, but anyway, it's great anyway, and I love doing it.
I'm happy for you. So more about your activity. So not so much writing right now, but do you think you will get back to it at some point, or?
I would like to. I mean, as you know, I'm in a business venture with my son, Tom, who's also very much involved with education, but he's more in the realm of designing apps which are either to do with lifestyle or health, or also learning.
Yeah.
And so he's now taking that side of our company in that direction.
Nice.
And when that bit takes off a bit, I'm hoping to do a bit less of the teaching and a bit more of the writing. I'd like to do some non-fiction, actually.
Really?
Yeah, partly because of the issues we've been talking about just now. That I really feel that there is a need to feed people's minds and to show them that it's not inevitable. We're not powerless,
So it wouldn't be sort of a critique, or I don't know what the word would be. Like when you sort of pouring out your heart about the current situation, what would be the word, like a genre to describe that?
Social criticism, maybe.
Criticism, right? Like a social criticism. It's not, you want to be more positive. You want to give some tips and advice how to restart this and get back to the basics, maybe a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Because there's a huge mental health aspect to all this. Because one of the things that has happened parallel with the decline in language use is that communication in general has become much more aggressive and toxic, and especially with people who are vulnerable to it. So, having worked in education, I've come into contact with various kinds of cyberbullying, and it has a massive effect on people's mental health, and it's something that Tom also feels very strongly about. So that's the kind of direction I'd like to take things in, looking to the future. I don't think I'd want to give up the tutoring side altogether, but I'm currently teaching every day of the week, which is a bit too much, really.
It's a bit too much, yeah.
Yeah. It just depends on how things are panning out with the schedule. But at the moment, I'm teaching 7 days a week, which is very tiring.
That's a lot. You need a break. You need to take your mind off this as well, like, because it's so easy. Like I've been teaching all my professional life as well, and it's so easy if you overdo it to basically burn out.
Yeah.
And sometimes at first you probably don't even realize it's happening, but you need balance, like with everything,
You do. Yeah. And it's all, I think part of that balance is having a variety of different activities, so that it's not always teaching, it could be writing, it could be, live events or designing something. So it could be any number of things.
Podcasting.
Podcasting, yes. Indeed.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Right, Claire. This has been a lovely chat, but let's let's mar it. let's spoil it by talking about the world events. Very depressing topic right now, but as I said, I like to talk to you about it. I want to know what you think. So, what the hell is going on with the world right now? Why are people like Donald Trump at the wheel? Like, why?
Well, I do think that it's all connected. That our the how would I put it? The degeneration of our communication has affected our thinking, because our in general. So because language isn't just a means of expression, it's a tool of thought itself. So if we blunt the instrument, then we lose the ability to discern things, to judge things, to assess them. And I think partly we've got a huge problem with the global economy, and the countries that used to dominate everything, whether it was the British Empire or the United States more recently, we just weren't prepared for the fact that Asia was going to rise to the powerhouse that it's become, and that we were no longer calling the shots. So a lot of people feel very let down because we took it for granted, I think, in my youth, that your children would have a better life than you had in terms of standard of living or opportunities. And that's now no longer the case. So what we're facing in Western countries is an obliteration of the middle class.
Yeah.
And so now, I think Christopher Hitchens put it very well when he said there are now the real class gap now isn't between, let's say, the aristocracy and the peasant, or between middle class and working class. It's between the people who make money and the people who earn money.
So basically the gap is widening between the poor and the rich, but we have always talked about it like in connection with other countries, so that you feel like it's happening in our part of the world as well.
Where you can see it, Zdenek, very, very definitely, is in the statistics to do with homelessness. So if you look at somewhere like the UK or the US, homelessness used to be the fate of people who were out of work for whatever reason. Whereas now, what you have, if you look at the homelessness statistics in the UK, in London, let's say, they've doubled in the last 20 years. And there's a great rise in the number of people who are homeless who are in full-time professional work. So, for example, junior doctors, nurses, people who are actually very well qualified and working, but they can't afford the most basic living costs.
Yes.
Maybe because they have to pay back student loans, or they've got families to support, or for whatever reason. So you can tell that there's something really terribly wrong with the economy when highly trained professionals are no longer able to afford the basics.
And
so
probably probably not many people want to talk about it, because nobody likes to talk about failures and things that are not going right. So a lot of people are still in denial. So it's like it hasn't happened overnight, right? It's happening slowly. There's like a transition basically for the worse, and it's happening slowly, and it's hard to realize it, and maybe it's hard to admit it to ourselves what has been happening. And I think that's a really good point. And I think it reflects, or this sort of reflects on how people vote, right? It impacts their decisions and the people they support in the election. So they choose the extremes, whichever side it is, right? Whether it's right or left, it doesn't matter. So it's like you're saying that we see an obliteration of the middle class, but it looks like it's the same with the sort of political parties. I think that the the centrist parties, they're gone, right? So it's either extreme left, right, like left wing, almost, I don't want to say communism, but it's sort of like very left wing, or it's very right wing, like almost to the point of being fascist, right? So that's what happened basically in the USA, right? They elected Donald Trump. They don't. So it's like people don't almost like care about the values anymore, sort of the person that they are selecting. It's more to do with their economical situation, as you said.
Yeah, it's to do with an emotional protest against the gap between reality and expectation, and a lot of us just weren't prepared for the fact that our economies cannot function the way they did, or with the fact that, for example, the kind of neoliberal thing that went on in the 80s with Thatcherism and everything, because she wasn't alone in this, that because she privatized utilities like electricity, sewage, public transport, everything. So the basic costs of living became extortionate, which meant that the economy was less competitive. So it actually had the opposite effect of what she purported to be trying to do, which was to support industry and private enterprise. Well, if you've got, and I'm not saying that the nationalized industries in the UK were somehow perfect, because they definitely weren't. But it's, once you start privatizing things, you end up with, for example, a healthcare system where significant amount of people have no care at all.
So that's America, basically, in the extreme version of it, in the USA, right? You could say. Because in Europe, like you have your NHS in the UK, right? So sort of, and in the Czech Republic, it's given by law that we have the basic health care, and it's quite good in the Czech Republic, for example. So I think, so would you say that the answer is somewhere in the middle? So if you privatize everything, it will lead to what happened in the USA, right? It's only for the privileged then in the end, who can afford it.
Generally speaking, anything that is taken to extremes will tend to invoke the opposite of what it says it's going to do. And of course, the other thing is populism, as you say. I mean, nobody expected Hitler to come to power in Germany in the 30s because Germany was considered to be the most sophisticated country in Europe. It was multi-ethnic, multi-racial. It was highly educated, skilled, technical people, and so on. And then Hitler came to power on this wave of populism, which was partly caused by the backlash from World War One. So now we've got the same sort of situation in the US and elsewhere. But it did occur to me that they say, that saying, it's an ill wind that blows no good.
What does that mean?
It means that even something that's really bad will often have some positive effect. So the effect of, I think the Trump phenomenon, the MAGA thing, has had an effect of what's the word, like a scarecrow. That it's actually frightened a lot of people.
Of course, because it's so ridiculous that I think a lot of people have united over it, like including European countries, you could say.
Well, look at the recent result in Hungary. They've
not only that, but like especially once he started talking about taking over Greenland and stuff like that.
No, so it's nuts. It's
absolutely nuts. But that actually helped Europe unite. And then probably it contributed to what happened in Hungary. So now Orbán lost the elections, and Orbán was like this autocratic leader who was taking away freedoms from Hungarian people, at least in my eyes, from Hungarian people, and making Hungary. It was just a country that was basically creating problems in Europe, always vetoing important decisions and things like that. And so that's really interesting. So basically what you're saying is that when things go very bad, like that could be the point where people, it's like a wake up for people to realize,
Huge.
hang on, that's too much, right?
Yeah.
Let's not
I
do
mean,
that.
also a shining example of that is what's going on in Canada, because
Right.
it did look in the last Canadian election as if it would go in the populist direction, and it didn't. I mean, whatever you think about Carney, he's a man with a track record for crisis management. He dealt with the COVID crisis at the Bank of England, you know, and he's also got qualities of leadership. I mean, yesterday he did this kind of, it's almost like a kind of mini State of the Union thing and it was really very, very interesting. And he said, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. Things are not going to be easy, but this is what we're doing about them. And I kind of thought, this is the way grown-up people talk in politics, and that's what we've been missing. You know, I'm not saying that one person has the answer to everything, and he wouldn't say that either. But I think people are beginning to realize that. Well, also look at Britain under Boris Johnson in the COVID pandemic. I mean, God help you if you've got populists in government when there's a crisis, because they're like headless chickens. They're like headless chickens. And the other thing, of course, is we're expecting populist governments to behave like governments. Well, that's not what they're there for. They're there to line their own pockets. And they are doing that so brilliantly. I mean, they've made billions out of it.
And still people can't see through it. People haven't been able to see through it. And it's everywhere. You have these people everywhere, right? So now in the Czech Republic, we have this guy Babiš, right? Andrej Babiš. So he's exactly that kind of guy. He does whatever suits. He will make decisions, political decisions, and whether it's like when he's in power or before the elections, in a way that will suit him, that will make him electable, if that's the word. You know, like whatever helps him get better sort of polls, like poll ratings, right? He will do it. He doesn't care about what it is. He could side with Putin, or he could side with European Union. He's that kind of guy. So we now have a really strange government in the Czech Republic. How do you see that, Claire?
Well, I basically think that you're right, that he's a populist and an opportunist. So I think that in order to stop suffering, when you put the news on and you see the latest sort of stunt or whatever, you have to understand that these people are not in the business of governing. They're in the business of making money out of the opportunities that they've got. So, you know, you're either in a situation where money buys power, or you're in a situation where power gives you access to money. Those are the two types of regime in the world, really.
Yeah.
And so what you've got really in these populist governments is an oligarchy. You know, apparently when Orbán lost the election, there were all these private planes from Hungarian oligarchs flying out of the country stashed with cash. No doubt heading for the Cayman Islands or Singapore or wherever, you know.
Well, we're laughing at it, but like, okay, there has always been corruption. Like it's just when there is power, there is corruption. I don't think it's something we can eradicate, but we need the people that do the least amount of it, at least, you know, something like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something. If it's blatant, if it's so blatant, like if people see what's happening, like with Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, and still it's hard for them to admit it, right? As well, that's part of the problem. It's is it ego or what is it? Just at some point you have to sort of realize that you have been fooled, right?
Well, yes.
Like Hungarians have realized it now.
Or Germans did eventually.
Eventually, right? But You have to realize it before it's too late.
Yes,
because when Germans knew it probably when everybody was on board with Hitler, they probably knew it already, but it was too late because it became a place where I don't want to defend them, but I can imagine that a lot of them were just scared.
Yes,
they fear for their life if they suddenly didn't follow Hitler, right? So in Hungary, I was actually a little bit surprised. I didn't think it would go as smoothly as this. I was scared that the elections would be manipulated, like tampered with, So I was glad that it actually was a democratic election and Orbán lost.
It was all the more remarkable because Peter Magyar didn't have access to the main state media.
Yeah.
He was literally hoofing it from village to village and town to town. The ground he covered,
And social media as well. He was like Orbán wasn't doing any of that. That's what he underestimated hugely, in my opinion. Because social media is just something you have to do these days as well.
Yes. So. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But I was listening to the podcast that The Rest is Politics with Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell.
I know.
Which I really like the way they both approach things from the perspective of people who've actually been in government. Right. And Rory Stewart made the point that politicians have really got to start thinking less technocratically, and they've got to start communicating like human beings because they're not speaking the same language as the people they're trying to govern. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's the gist of it. And I think it's right. There are emotions involved here. People are angry. People are really angry that they're working.
And that's how people decide. This is people make decisions based on their emotions. Like if you think about yourself, whenever you when you're thinking of buying something, for example, you're like, no, I will save up the money. I don't need it. But at some point you're like, screw it. I'm going to buy it. I've had a good day, or I'm really upset. Nothing is working in my life right now. Let me just treat myself at least. You make decisions like that emotionally, right? Most of the time. So that's true.
Yes.
That's true.
So
that's why it's really important to tap into the human emotions. Like we had this Petr Fiala, right, who was like sort of the opposition to Babiš.
Yes.
And he was a professor, university professor, and that was his weakness, that he wasn't able to talk in a way that people could get behind. Like basically, Babiš, maybe for all his faults, he's talking in what's the word I'm looking for? In a way that is easier to follow for people, basically, right?
Yes.
He
also has this way of pinpointing the issues that people really care about and producing a kind of soundbite that will appeal to that. He's very good at that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then we have this Donald Trump now. Like this is so blatantly wrong. Like everybody must see it now. Like what did he say about Iran now? That he threatened to destroy the whole civilization or something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean he's. I think you've got to allow for the fact that he's 80. I think now ish.
Yeah,
and you can't be in that sort of function with his sort of. I mean, he's so narcissistic anyway.
Yeah, it's mad.
That, but they're just lining their own pockets. It's insider trading, deals behind closed doors. They're absolutely,
But they're not even hiding it. They're not hiding it anymore. That's the thing. That's the usually when something like that happens, you sort of trying to hide it at least, or you do it in a way that is less clear, less obvious. But this is just so blatant. Like you would have to be really dumb not to see it now. Like they're speculating. Like every time he makes some kind of statement, there are people who make money on that because they have information to that before it happens. Because every statement, it either the price of oil goes down or up or something, and then you can make a lot of money in the stock market on it, right? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Mm-hmm.
How can people not see that? How hasn't he been impeached yet, Claire?
I
don't get
know. Well, I think he's probably intimidated a lot of judges, and there's a lot goes on behind closed doors. But I think what emerged when there was all this terrible trouble in Minneapolis, the judges then actually started to grow a pair, so to speak, and actually
grow a pair of balls, right? We say to grow a pair of balls.
Yeah. So we're they said we're not going to play along with this, and so you notice that the media attention very swiftly moved away from
the pendulum is swinging.
But I was watching a guy from Canada yesterday, and he was talking about the statistics of Canadians refusing to travel to the US. So I didn't realize that something like over 40% of visitors to Las Vegas are actually Canadian or were.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
it's huge, absolutely huge. And they've stopped going. So
this will impact the owners of the casinos and these kind of powerful people
who voted MAGA.
Who voted MAGA, right? Because they wanted to make America great again. So that's why Trump, he will not be able to have everybody on his side, hopefully. And then in the end, this system will crumble because it has to. It's just unsustainable, in my opinion. But the question is, how much mess will he make before it does?
Yes.
That's the real question, because it's and another. I know we are sort of there's a lot to discuss here, and when it's not possible to cover it all, but how big of a part do the Epstein files take, in your opinion? The Epstein file, is it relevant, or do you think it's
it's relevant in the sense that what you've seen is that it's that moment in The Wizard of Oz where they pull back the curtain and you see that somebody's just pulling a lot of levers and using a false voice, and it's just smoke and mirrors. So the Epstein files are a window into the culture, the mindset, the habits of a very wealthy elite,
right?
And who behave as if they are bulletproof and above the law. And in many cases, they're correct, because have you heard of anybody being prosecuted? But the thing that really is so amazing to me, which I hadn't thought about before, you start off with this jaw-dropping, institutionalized sexual abuse of young people, both boys and girls, lest we forget. Sort of worldwide by people high in politics, in industry, and so forth. But then the real horror is that this is being used by Epstein as a currency to buy influence and power. It's not just the abuse itself; it's the fact that the abuse is a currency. So it's like watching something like pure evil.
And but my question is, how have people not been able to stop it? Right? There must have been moments where people could stop it. Like, do you really think they were all scared? Like, as you said, intimidated, threatened, or is it about they were bought? Somebody just bought them.
Yeah, I mean, the way Epstein operated, he supported all sorts of things all across the board, in education, in the media,
right?
And he was a real charmer. And also he had sort of tame university lecturers and professors who would come up with clever sounding stuff that he would then repeat. So he was able to sort of position himself as a thought leader in a way.
I see.
But there was I'm just trying to think where I heard it it was on. I was watching something on YouTube where there was a German guy, a German academic visiting either Harvard or Yale, I forget which, and the salary that they were offering him as a visiting professor wasn't enough to enable him to bring his wife and children. So he said, I really can't manage on this. And so Epstein came up with the money. And at one point there were these email exchanges which have come out in the files. Yeah. And he said Epstein asked this German lecturer, what do people think about me? How am I seen in general? And this guy, being German, of course, so they're quite blunt.
Very blunt.
He said, if you look up your own entry in Wikipedia, the first line says you're a paedophile, a convicted paedophile. So how could anybody pretend not to know?
Yeah.
Because it's the first line in his Wikipedia entry. It's not that people didn't know, it's just that they chose not to draw the conclusion. Yes, they chose not to care.
Not to care for various reasons. But now it's like sort of all coming to light, right? So now it's the thing is like he hasn't released everything, Trump, because he's now the president. So I think he's still pulling the strings, but it will eventually all come to light. And now it will be a challenge for Americans, or a question for Americans to make a decision whether to condemn it or sort of it will fall on deaf ears and they'll just gloss over it. I don't know.
And I think also, though, you've got to take into account that the people involved are so powerful that you almost fear what would happen if they were really challenged.
Right. Because they are tied to a lot of other businesses as well.
Yeah.
And for example, exactly. So there's a lot of lobbying. There will be a lot of lobbying, a lot of... It's not easy. It's very complex.
It is very complex.
It's not only about being right and wrong, because a lot of people, they have their own sort of skin in the game, right? That's part of the problem.
Indeed. Absolutely.
It's all rotten, basically.
It is. Well, yes, but there's a lot of good in the world as well. We should try to remember that.
Like this podcast and Achiever's Chamber and Claire's novels, and exactly, because we are doing it all in out of kindness of heart and just because we need some creative outlet, right? And
I mean, it isn't all bad, it really isn't. But to kind of close the circle, I do think
we need to do that.
And
on a positive note.
Yeah, because it does make a difference. Sometimes it's so easy to fall into the mental trap of thinking one little me, one person can't make a difference, but one person absolutely can make a difference.
Yeah.
And it does matter what we believe, and it does matter how we behave.
Exactly.
And it does matter what values we live out in our day-to-day lives. Even now, I get people coming up to me that I taught maybe 40 years ago who say, you were the person who got me interested in this, and this has really changed my life. I'm now doing something I wouldn't, and that really does make it all worthwhile, because that it wasn't in vain. It wasn't for nothing.
I guess partially I'm hoping that this podcast has the same effect. Because if there is only one person, if there is even one person, who we, I don't want to say we change this person's mind, or we at least give this person some food for thought, then we have probably done something good, right? Because honestly, just think about it, guys. We haven't really always taken a stand here, right? We've sort of been talking about it in a global way, and it's up to you what sort of sense you make out of it all. But it's not easy. It hasn't been easy in the recent years in the world. And
it's the world's a very dangerous place. But you know, I think Trump may have met his match in Iran.
Yeah, I hope so.
I just hope that the rest of us don't get pulled down with him.
Well, it looks like he asked for help. He asked NATO for help, and we haven't followed suit. That's important, right? And yeah, enough is enough. You know, you just have to do the right thing sometimes, and you can't always just listen to someone who is powerful just because they are powerful. You have to even it's a rule for life, right? When somebody is just, when you realize somebody is taking advantage of you or it's too much, then even if it's risky for you, you have to take a stand. You have to rebel sometimes. You know?
Yes, you have to stand up for what you believe in.
Stand up. Yeah, that's the word. Stand up against a tyrant. Oh, fantastic, Claire. Wonderful. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you. It's been great. I'm so glad we could catch up finally. You know, it just you do get kind of buried in a workload if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Lovely chat. Good. Lovely. Okay. Well, take care of yourself, and I hope to speak to you soon. And you guys listening to this, don't forget there is a way you can be in touch with us and be able to talk to us. Just become an Achievers Chamber member, and that's it. That's how you do it. That's the easiest way.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see some new faces as well as the lovely old ones.
Absolutely. And you can just try it for a month. You know, if you're not sure, if you're skeptical, that's fine. Who wouldn't be? Try it for a month. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, no problem.
Thank you, Zdenek. Lovely to see you again.
Anytime. Take care, Claire.
Bye for now.